Hello and welcome to Conversation Corner. My name is Kunal. Today I'm going to talk to you about why I feel children are happier as human beings as compared to adults. I'll start by telling you an incident in school. I remember this particular teacher was asking different kids what they wanted to be when they were growing up. And different people gave different answers. And at that point in time, that question wasn't put to me, but it was a question I indeed thought about. I remembered that when I was a kid, I used to be quite happy. In fact, I was a really happy kid. And looking back at those days, I realized I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted to be when I was growing up. And I think I've come to the conclusion of why kids generally tend to be happier than adults. Normally, when kids experience a certain level of joy or happiness, it comes to them without any reason. That is to say, being happy or joyful is in the nature of a kid. However, the process of socialization tends to take a kid away from himself. Now, this is a concept that is a bit difficult to explain, but let me give it a try and let's see if you can understand what I'm trying to say. As parents, teachers, and society puts its influence on the kid, basically they let the kid know that happiness lies just across the corner. If you've ever seen the an ocean, and if you've ever seen the horizon, it looks like a place where the sky and the sea touch, but that's just an illusion as it appears to us. No matter how far into the ocean you sail, you're never going to meet the horizon, you're never going to touch it, although it's going to be quite visible. So in a sense, the horizon does exist and it does not exist. So, how does this have anything to do with how a kid is raised by parents, teachers, and societies? Well, when a kid is a kid, the horizon in this case is education. The main goal of growing up would be to do well in the exams, at least at this point in time. So, the exams appear, and the kid studies really hard for these exams and manages to pass the exam and sometimes manages to clear the exam with excellent grades. But life doesn't end there, of course, and now the next target is set. It's possibly a college degree, or let's say the kid even completed college. Now he's a young adult who has completed college and has his degree in hand. There's still something that needs to be done with this degree, right? Seek employment out or start his own business or venture. So then the horizon gets reset. Now it is about getting a great job or starting an amazing business. Either of them. That horizon is reached, and then it becomes about finding someone to marry. Then it happens that it's about having kids. Later, it's about retirement, and then, of course, you pop it off. At every stage in life, joy or happiness is stolen from you because you are being told that it is something that is accessible to you but accessible to you in the future. And when it's not accessible to you immediately, it naturally implies that you're not joyful or happy as of now. So every time you now become happy is when you achieve something. So let's say you cleared the exam with excellent grades, you became really happy. You got a good job that pays well, you became really happy. But if you've studied psychology, not even in depth, just a little bit of it, there is this concept called hedonic adaptation, where after reaching a certain level in life, whether that be good or be bad, we get used to it. So the promotion that you received 1 year ago isn't going to keep you happy for the next 1, 2, or 3 years unless you get another promotion. So each time you need to go higher and higher and higher and have something else. So what's essentially happening is joy and happiness that was your normal state of being as a kid has now been transformed into something that is pursued or acquired. I think the United States Constitution or preamble had written in it the pursuit of happiness, right? So, from joy and happiness being a natural state of a human being, it turns into a pursuit. So what happens when this becomes strongly conditioned into us? Well, let's take the case of the salary itself. No matter how hard you work in a job, you're paid a fixed salary, and that fixed salary has certain fixed intervals. In some places, it's given on a daily basis. In some places, it's given on a bi-weekly basis. On some places, given on a monthly basis. What does that mean? That means up until the time you actually receive your salary, you're not happy because you don't have the money to buy what you want with that salary. So you wait until the payday comes, you feel really happy, maybe you go out and spend a little, you consume, you feel happy for a while, and then you realize you just can't blow everything you want because you have to save a little for the month that is to come. So very soon you're conditioned to believe now you need a promotion because you have more expensive tastes. So in order to keep up with that lifestyle, you work even harder. And of course, if you bring into this mix a spouse and kids, you need to earn far more in order to sustain their lifestyle. So at every stage in time now, your well-being has been tied to something that is outside you. Now, things outside you are not always under your control. Maybe you can get that promotion if you work hard, but maybe you may not get it. There may not be place for one more promotion, or somebody outperformed you, or there was favoritism. So external circumstances can't always give you what you want, but if your well-being has been tied to an external circumstance, anytime things don't pan out the way you plan to, you'll tend to be unhappy. And more often than not in life, you're not going to get what you want as compared to getting what you want, and that's something that is really hard to digest. So once you become cognizant of that life most of the time doesn't give you what you want as compared to what you want, you've now conditioned yourself to be miserable because your education and upbringing gave you the lesson that happiness lies outside of you, it lies in your accomplishments, or it lies in the wealth that you have accumulated so far. Now it's certainly true that access to a certain amount of wealth and status opens doors for you in the world, but as you know that human desire is unlimited. So anytime you achieve something, the heart always wants more, or let's say the mind always wants more. So it becomes nearly impossible to have access to unconditional joy in this case, which is actually the natural state of a human being as a kid. If you observe kids very closely, very often you see that they're very happy with little to absolutely nothing. It's only when you grow older does your happiness become linked and tied to consumption and achievements. And these things slowly get their grip on you, and they strip you of the joy of just being. So that's how we become miserable over time. And as people grow older and older, they become more and more miserable because, of course, with old age comes loss of energy. With loss of energy comes a lesser drive to achieve what you want. And since you've conditioned yourself to be happy on the basis of what you've accomplished, the older you get and the more failures you come across in life or you experience, the more miserable you're going to be. So somehow we've conditioned ourselves to feel happy only when we accomplish something, and as a result, 9 out of 10 times we are aware of what we don't have, and what you think on or what you think about amplifies. So the thinking or the awareness of lack of what you have amplifies in your brain, and then nothing ever becomes enough. So this cuts across all socioeconomic groups. Let's say the poor person is cognizant of him not having a good house or a car. The same happens at the middle class, and the same happens in the rich. So nobody really has enough because desires are unlimited, and since we've conditioned ourselves to feel good only when we accomplish something or when we consume something, Our happiness gets tied to achievements and consumption, and slowly we become miserable over time. Undoing this is an exercise that is really hard. I can't say I have the answers to this because I haven't experienced that state of continuous bliss that comes without reason, but it's worth looking into and at least being aware of the fact that consumption and achievements, although they do bring a certain level of happiness, do not bring that level of happiness that can be sustained 24 by 7. And knowing the fact that most likely in life you'll end up with what you don't want rather than what you want, you will have conditioned yourself to be very unhappy. So the first way to unhook yourself from this programming is to feel good about yourself as you are and accept reality as it is, rather than mortgaging your happiness in lieu of some future accomplishment. Now, that is easier said than done because that involves going against all your childhood programming. But if you want to stop being miserable, the first thing you have to do is you have to de-link what you do with who you are. The essence of who you are in life is far bigger than what you have accomplished, and anytime you link what you do with who you are, you make yourself very limited. Let's say you're a world class sprinter and in an accident you lose your legs, you can't sprint anymore. Are you nobody now? You're still alive. Maybe you don't have legs now, but you're still a functioning human being. Doesn't mean life has ended. Life is far bigger than what we accomplish. Life is far bigger than what we do, but unfortunately, societal conditioning has linked what we do with who we are, and since what we do can certainly be compared to what others do, we become miserable because we fall into the trap of comparison. So, the first step towards deprogramming yourself is to de-link or decouple what you do from who you are, and then try and find a way to get back to that childlike state of reasonless joy. Now, how you get back to that childlike state of reasonless joy is something I haven't found out as yet, so I can't claim to have knowledge of it and can't give you advice for the same. But knowing what makes you miserable is the first step in this direction. So, if possible, try and de-link who you are from what you do, and after doing that, let me know if this makes you happier or not.